Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we're going to read some Srimad Bhagavatam. You know, it's a Sunday evening when you got nothing better to do than read the Bhagavatam. So, Hare Krishna. Where are we?
Canto 4, Chapter 8, Text 47. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 47. The Lord is further described as having the mark of Shrivats, or the sitting place of the goddess of fortune, and his bodily hue is deep bluish. The Lord is a person. He wears a garland of flowers, and he is eternally manifest with 4 hands, which hold, beginning from the lower left hand, a concha, wheel, club, and lotus flower. Purport. Here in this verse, the word Purusham is very significant. The Lord is never female. He is always male, Purusham. Therefore, the impersonalist who imagines the Lord's form as that of a woman is mistaken. The Lord appears in female form if necessary, but his perpetual form is Purusha, because he is originally male. The feminine feature of the Lord is displayed by goddesses of fortune, Lakshmi, Radharani, Sita, etc. All these goddesses of fortune are servitors of the Lord. They are not the supreme, as falsely imagined by the impersonalist. I'll come back to that. Lord Krishna, in his Narayan feature, is always 4-handed. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when Arjuna wanted to see his universal form, he showed this feature of 4-handed Narayan. Some devotees are of the opinion that Krishna is an incarnation of Narayan, but the Bhagavat school says that Narayan is a manifestation of Krishna. Now, I can't quote the class, but definitely I've heard Prabhupada say that, because it says here, Lakshmi, Radharani, Sita, etc. All these goddesses of fortune are servitors of the Lord. They are not the supreme. But my understanding is that Radharani is the Lord in female form.
Well, I think you'd have to find something to substantiate that.
I will, because 100%, that's what I have heard and understood that. And I remember, it was, that she is the absolute truth in female form. Just as Prabhupada says, Balaram is also the absolute truth, but he's white and Krishna's black. And he says in that lecture, this lecture in relation to Balaram, the only difference is the colour between those two. Definitely. You know what that?
Well, it may be possible. Of course, Radha Krishna is the absolute truth because it's Radha Krishna. But here Prabhupada is saying they're not the supreme. And it sounds like, because he mentions it twice about the impersonalist, that there's obviously some sort of school of thought, a school that says a certain thing that we may not be understanding exactly what Prabhupada is referring to.
Okay.
Srimati Radharani is the Ladini Shakti. She's the pleasure potency of Krishna. She's not Krishna. Exactly. So, there's a Chinta Beta, a Beta Tattva, which means, that she is and she isn't. Balaram is also not Krishna, although Prabhupada definitely in scripture says that they are the same person, but Balaram is the first expansion of Krishna. And then when he wants to expand for the purpose of enjoyment, then Srimati Radharani manifests. And that's why she's the Ladini Shakti. So, the Lord and His energies. But it's the Lord and His energies. The energies are not the Lord, and Prabhupada would say, just like the sunshine is not the same as the sun globe. So, like that. But I think, and it'd be good if you did find that verse.
I'll have to find it.
Or that statement by Prabhupada. But otherwise, the impersonalist who imagines the Lord's form as that of a woman is mistaken. So Prabhupada is clearly making a direct reference to some sort of an impersonalistic philosophy, which seems strange, because if it's impersonalist or impersonalistic philosophy, why would it say that the Lord is a woman? Because that's personal. So that in and of itself is confusing. But I imagine there must be something out there, and if you who are watching know of something like this, and you can put it down, or if you know the quote she's talking about, you can also put that in the comments below. We like to drive active participation. Okay. So text 48 we're going to read. The entire body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, is decorated. He wears a valuable jeweled helmet, necklaces, and bracelets. His neck is adorned with a Kaustubha jewel, and he is dressed in yellow silk garments. I mean, this is very important, actually. I was just, this morning, when I sent out a quote for the Bhakti Reflections Japa group, which, by the way, if you're interested, I don't know if there's a link.
There is a link.
There's a link. You can join the Bhakti Reflections group. I know some of you are. Yeah. I know some of you are already on it.
Sally has.
So I was thinking how we've been talking recently about the Lord being a person and understanding our relationship with the Lord, and was thinking that when I chant, really meditating on what the Lord looks like, it's a little difficult, and it's important that we read and hear these descriptions again and again. It's very powerful. So the Lord is decorated with small golden bells around His waist, and His lotus feet are decorated with golden ankle bells. All His bodily features are very attractive and pleasing to the eyes. He is always peaceful, calm, and quiet, and very pleasing to the eyes and the mind. So twice it said that He's pleasing to the eyes. Text 50. Real yogis meditate upon the transcendental form of the Lord as He stands on the whirl of the lotus of their hearts, and the whirl of the lotus of their hearts, the jewel-like nails of His lotus feet glittering. So, of course, this is describing the forearm form, the Narayan form, the Vishnu form, and it reminds me of the picture from the front of the Science of Self-Realization, which I've always found very, very beautiful, and I wish I had it here to show, but I don't. So anyway, text 51. The Lord is always smiling, and the devotees should constantly see the Lord in this form, as He looks very mercifully toward the devotee. In this way, the meditators should look toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the bestower of all benedictions. Purport. The word niyatena is very significant in this connection, for it indicates that one should execute the meditation practice as stated above. One should not manufacture a way of meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but should follow the authorized shastras and personalities. Very important. By this prescribed method, one can practice concentration upon the Lord until one is so fixed that he remains in trance, thinking always of the form of the Lord. The word used here is ekabhutena, which means with great attention and concentration. If one concentrates on the description of the bodily features of the Lord, one will never fall down. So, first, sometimes we hear that we shouldn't meditate on the form of the Lord. And I can't remember, did I discuss this last time? So sometimes we hear that. We shouldn't imagine, we shouldn't imagine the form of the Lord. It doesn't mean we should meditate on the form of the Lord. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't take a description of the Lord that exists in the Shastra, in the scripture, and utilize that for meditating on the form of the Lord. What we shouldn't do is concoct or invent or imagine some form of the Lord. So here, Prabhupada is very much stressing ekabhutena, which means with great attention and concentration. And if one concentrates on the descriptions of the bodily features of the Lord, one will never fall down. That is very powerful, I think.
Yeah, it's good.
So excited.
Text 52. One who meditates in this way, concentrating his mind upon the always auspicious form of the Lord, is very soon freed from all material contamination, and he does not come down from meditation upon the Lord. Purport. This fixed meditation is called samadhi or trance. A person constantly engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord cannot be deviated from meditating on the form of the Lord as described herein. The Archana Marg, or the devotional path prescribed in the Pancharatra system of devotional service for worshipping the deity in the temple, makes the devotee think constantly of the Lord. That is samadhi or trance. One who practices in this way cannot deviate from the service of the Lord, and that makes him perfect in the mission of human life. So what's it saying here is worshipping the deity in the temple makes the devotee think constantly of the Lord. That's true. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, okay.
But there's also a danger. Interesting. I haven't quite figured it out. It is true that, I'm just speaking from experience, if you worship a deity in the temple, even at home, you do actually get attached to the form of the Lord and to decorating and serving and, thinking, and then you sort of see things, oh, that would look nice on him, oh, that flower, oh, this, oh, that, and that's nice. You become absorbed, Maybe some people see some material, some cloth. Oh, that would look like a nice thing. You do get like that. But there is such a thing as familiarity can breed contempt. And so it's interesting in my short years of experience on this path. I've noticed that because there's two schools of thought. I won't say it right, but it's Pancharatra and Bhagavatam. So the deity worship should be parallel alongside the studying and the knowledge of what you're doing.
Did you just say the preaching should be along? The
deity worship.
Yeah, Pancharatrika should.
The deity worship, because otherwise it becomes it becomes quite offensive, I would say, because you start to become less conscious of the absolute truth in standing in front of who you're worshipping and dressing, and become familiar with that person in front of you, and then not so conscious of the people that are serving with you. Just trying to be diplomatic.
Well, it sounds like you got some personal issue you're trying to
got no personal issue. I'm just speaking from
here.
No, I'm just speaking from experience. What I'm trying to say is it's very important to get this knowledge, and at the same time, I do recommend deity worship. I think it's great for becoming absorbed. It's not the only way to become absorbed, but it's wonderful, creative and nice. But if you don't continue the hearing and the chanting and reading and that, then it can lead you astray. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Yeah, I thought this was a good verse. It confirms the previous statement that by meditating on the form of the Lord, then one is safely situated. And it is interesting, Prabhupada mentions deity worship as a way to do that. Because, as you were saying, is that, some people, we kind of get into it a little bit here, but of course when we were more worshipping the deities in the temple, you really get into it. You start to think, exactly like you said, you might go shopping for jewelry, but it's not for you, it's for the deities, and you think it's for Krishna. You think about cloth, you think about outfits, you think about the way to dress, you look at videos for it. So you become absorbed in serving and worshipping the form of the Lord. That's called Archa Vigraha and Archana. And that's one of the 9 limbs of devotional service, of which just being absorbed in one is enough. And I think that's an important thing, although you're saying, I get it, the Bhagavad and the Pancharatrika. Pancharatrika was from the previous Yuga, not Kali Yuga, but Dwapara Yuga, and that was the system of perfection in that age. But Jiva Goswami explains that both are like parallel tracks for a train. So the Pancharatrika Marg, the Bhagavat Marg, but the Bhagavat Marg has the current or the electricity running through it, and that Bhagavat Marg means studying and preaching. So in one sense you could say, both have to be there. At the same time, ironically, Prabhupada says again and again, and the Acharyas say that of the 9 processes of devotional service, you only have to take up one seriously. So if someone becomes fully absorbed in Archana, theoretically, even if they don't hear and chant, they are absorbed in Krishna, and that's the point of chanting. That's the point of any of it. Any of the, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Vishnu, to remember the Lord. That's the point of all the processes.
Yeah, I agree. Service. But if you're not on that level of genuine absorption, it can actually be a problem. Your point is making sense in your head, but because you're not communicating it clearly, it's not. I don't get it. I don't get that it's making sense. What I'm understanding is that what you're saying is that if someone just becomes absorbed in only deity worship, then they may cultivate or develop certain anartas, or stay on a Kanishta platform where it's just me and the deities, and you forget about the devotees around. Yes. Yeah, so of course Prabhupada says, it's just me and the deity. But one would generally hope that someone that comes to the platform of being Brahman initiated, they definitely, hopefully move from the Kanishta platform, although I guess they could be a Kanishta Brahman. But I get your point. One can just be absorbed in thinking it's me and the deity and not really care so much about the devotees. Is that the idea? Yeah. Okay. Leave it there. All right, I think we'll end on that positive note. Okay, thank you all very much for tuning in, listening. Please read Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, and worship the deity. We're moving into just over 3 years now that we've been reading like this, and it's very enlivening, very inspiring, exciting, and simultaneously, I think, as I've mentioned before,
listening regularly to different Bhagavatam recitations, and especially Krishna Dharma Prabhu's books, Brilliant as the Sun, and just hearing Bhagavatam and thinking, and then you go for a class and they talk about this, and life just becomes the Bhagavatam, and it's really, this is also absorbing, so like
yeah, and Prabhupada says the books are also like deities, and you can put them on your altar and worship them, so
you
don't have to have deities. I'm not actually saying you got to go out and get deities, because it's a big responsibility, but yeah, you can worship these books, and how we worship them is how Lord Krishna says in chapter 18, I don't know the verse, but chapter 18 towards the end, that he who studies this sacred conversation worships me with his intelligence. I remember that verse because I'm a nerd, and when I read the Gitas in university, and I thought, well, that's very nice, because it really, I was like, wow. I remember that one.
Yes, everyone has their own access to Krishna.
Yes, okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you all very much. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.